Hey, how you doing? I've made a video the other week about the Eagles draft and how I think the Eagles had a really good draft. I was very happy with the Eagles draft, but almost as important as Eagles draft is how the rest of the teams in the NFC East drafted, because we have to play them 6 times a year, and also the Eagles are contending uh, with those 3 teams for the best record to win the division. So I'm gonna go through the other 3 teams in the division quickly and just give my take on their drafts. And before I start, I would say that the Eagles had by far the best draft in the NFC East. And I am an Eagles fan, so I am biased. But I really, even if I just look at it objectively, I think the Eagles had the best draft in the NFC East, and I think that a couple of years down the road, we'll see that that's right. So I'll start with the Redskins, with the other 3 teams. Pretty much the Redskins draft is done a hinge on how Robert Griffin III is, how he plays, because they gave up so much to get him, and he was the second pick in the draft. Um, what are his chances of success? I can't give odds any better than the next person, but I think he could be pretty good. The thing with the Redskins is that they just I still don't think they have a ton of weapons for him in Washington. I know some people saying that they've got a couple of decent running backs. I don't know who he's gonna throw to, but they got a couple of good tight ends. Their offensive line is still questionable if you ask me, but yeah. So I don't think even with RG3, even if he does pan out to be pretty good, I still don't fear their offense um, that much. If you look, by the way, at Baylor last year, who RG3 played for, Baylor had Kendall Wright, the receiver, who went early in draft. They had a couple of good offensive linemen, and they had the running back Ganaway. And they play in the Big 12, which is a league which pretty much suits RG3's game. And they only went 9-3 in the regular season, and they beat Washington in the bowl game. So it wasn't like Baylor was a juggernaut of a team last year. They were good, but they weren't that good. Or they were good, but they weren't a top 5, top 10 team. So I wouldn't. I'm maybe it's just the Eagles fan coming out on me, but I'm not. I'm not in the RG3 hype machine. I think Andrew Luck is gonna have a much better career than RG3. Um, and other than that, the Redskins didn't have a great draft. If yet, in my opinion, they first of all they gave up so much to get RG3 that uh, their next couple drafts won't. They're not to have a first round pick, and then but in terms of other players they got in this year's draft, they got Keenan Robinson, linebacker from Texas, who I talked about before the draft. He'll be a pretty good player. They already have a pretty good defense. That is the one thing I'm a little bit concerned is that, especially their linebacking core with Arakpo, Kerrigan, and now Robinson. They do have some good linebackers, and they had a pretty good defense last year too. But yeah, I mean, I think the Redskins coming to are 8-8 type team. I'm not fearing them right now. So yeah, the draft completely hinges on RG3 and how he pans out. But I'm not completely impressed. So Eagles fans don't have to fear the Redskins right now. Now I'll move on to the Giants and how they drafted. Um, I thought the Giants had a decent draft. Um, especially with their first 2 picks. I think that they didn't draft that well later in the draft, but I didn't like their first 2 picks because I thought they were good, and that's bad for the Giants. But I like the players that they got at the first 2 picks, especially considering, by the way, that they were drafting with the last pick in each round. In the first round, they got David Wilson, running back from Virginia Tech. I really like David Wilson. I think he's probably going to be the second best running back in this draft behind Trent Richardson. He had a really good year at Virginia Tech. He's got great moves, not game-breaking speed, but he is fast. But yeah, he's just got great moves, and I think he'll be a good runner. So I'm a little bit concerned the fact that they got Wilson because that could add to their offense. And in the second round, they got Ruben Randall, receiver from LSU. Randall's not I don't think he's ever gonna be like a just a game-changing wide receiver, but he is a really solid receiver. I think he will be. He's got really good speed. He can stretch the field. He can catch, good hands. So he is a good receiver. So unfortunately, I think that was a good pick for the Giants. But so we'll see. They already have a pretty good receiving core. He'll pretty much just replace Manningham if you're looking at their team, and yeah, so that's kind of what their draft is. I think it was those first few picks were the best picks they had. And then, like the Redskins, I don't think the Giants drafted that well late in the draft. The one player who is pretty good that they got is a tight end from Cincinnati, because they kind of do that thing where they have their fullbacks and tight ends are largely interchangeable, and they do that pretty well. So that's the one thing I think. I forget I think it's Robinson from Cincinnati, and he's pretty good. I saw some highlights of him. He is pretty good. So I keep an eye on that. But other than that, I think out of the other three teams, the Cowboys, Giants, and Redskins, I actually think the Giants probably had the best draft out of those three. But I don't think it was near the Eagles draft. So we'll see. And then the third team, the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys had the worst draft of any team in the NFC East. I know a lot of people are talking about they traded up to get Morris Claiborne, the corner from LSU, in the first round. And Claiborne is a good corner, but other than that, I just did not like their draft at all. And even with Claiborne, Claiborne's a great corner. He was great at LSU. I don't know if that guarantees he'll be good in the NFL, but he probably will be pretty good. But a couple things. First of all, if you look at the Eagles, we already have. If they play with the potential awesome line riders, Cromartie, I think are just as good, if not better, than Claiborne. And also, we drafted Brandon Boykin in the fourth round, and I think Boykin has the potential to be just as good, if not better, than Claiborne. I know some people will call me crazy, but seriously, Boykin is really good, and we got him in the fourth round. And the Cowboys traded up in the first, into the top 6 to get Claiborne. So, I don't know. And Claiborne does. He can struggle when he's playing against speed. So if you're strictly talking when the Eagles and Cowboys play, I think he could struggle if he gets lined up against Deshaun Jackson. I think Deshaun could take him deep, and we'll see. And if they don't put Claiborne on Jackson, then Jackson could take anybody else deep. They still don't have a great secondary other than him. And yeah, I don't think they had a very good draft after him. So yeah, Eagles fans, be happy because we drafted great this year. I was very happy. I already made a couple of videos about the Eagles draft, and yeah, we just had a great draft, both in draft and undrafted free agents. We got a lot of good players in undrafted free agents, and it makes it even better that the rest of the NFC East didn't draft that well. So thanks for watching. See you next time, and go Eagles.